Don't come home this year. Madison says you'll ruin Thanksgiving. Those 7 words hit my ear like a slap. I'm Hannah Blake, and at 27, I stood in my studio, suitcase half zipped, pumpkin candle burning, thinking I still had a family to fly home to. Spoiler, I didn't. If you've ever been labeled the drama just for asking to be treated fairly, drop a me too in the comments. Because what happened next still makes people furious. And if this story grabs you, tap like and subscribe so more folks who feel alone can find it. 3 days before Thanksgiving, my mom didn't just cancel my trip. She erased me. And that night, a table of strangers changed my life forever. Thanksgiving morning in Boston felt like the city was mocking me. Upstairs, my neighbor's family stamped snow off their boots, kids squealing, somebody yelling, "Don't forget the cranberry sauce." And the smell of stuffing drifted through the vents like a reminder of what I didn't have. My phone stayed dead. No happy Thanksgiving. No, did you land yet? Just silence. 3 days earlier, my mother, Karen Blake, had called with that flat voice she used when she'd already made up her mind. "Hannah, don't come home this year. Madison doesn't want drama. She's pregnant again and she can't handle stress." No explanation, no apology, just a command. When I asked, "What drama?" she snapped, "You know how you get." Like having a spine was a defect. That sentence dragged up a lifetime. Birthdays that got postponed and never happened. Milestones I celebrated alone while everyone rushed to Madison's latest crisis. If I questioned it, I was too sensitive. If I stayed quiet, I was mature. I called my dad, Tom, hoping stupidly that he'd say, "This is wrong." He didn't. He sighed and mumbled, "Your mom's just trying to keep the peace." Translation: peace for them, loneliness for me. When I asked, "Do you want me there?" he paused, then said, "It's better if you listen to your mother." That pause was its own answer. Something in me clicked shut. So on Thanksgiving, after I tortured myself by opening Instagram and seeing Madison post a glowing family photo with the caption, "These are the people who matter most," I stopped letting the day happen to me. I put on my coat. If I was going to be alone, I wasn't going to be alone in the dark. I found a restaurant called Seaport Tavern, dark wood, brass lamps, cloth napkins, the kind of place that smells like butter and tradition. The hostess gave me that look people think they're hiding. "Just one?" she asked, and the pity landed hard. She tucked me into a cramped two-top beside a big, loud table of 3 generations. They laughed like belonging was effortless. My plate arrived. Turkey, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, perfect golden skin. It might as well have been cardboard. I pushed food around and stared at the window, trying not to imagine my parents' table in Connecticut with no chair for me. The tears slipped out anyway. Hot, humiliating, unstoppable. I pressed my napkin to my face like I could hide my whole life behind linen. "Hey, sweetheart, are you okay?" I looked up. An older woman from the next table stood beside me. Silver hair, kind eyes, the kind of face that doesn't look away from pain. "I'm fine," I lied. "Allergies." She lifted one eyebrow. "Allergies don't usually show up with Thanksgiving turkey and heartbreak." My throat tightened. She didn't flinch. "I'm Diane Carter," she said. "Nobody should eat alone today. Come sit with us." I started to refuse, because refusing is what you do when you've been taught you're a burden. But her husband waved me over and called, "She won't take no. 43 years and I still lose." The table chuckled. A younger guy across from me, dark hair, easy grin, tilted his head. "We've got enough pie for a small army," he said. I followed Diane to their table, and they made room like I belonged. Frank Carter shook my hand. Their son, Ethan, and his wife, Jenna, smiled like I wasn't an inconvenience. 2 kids, Lily and Ben, argued about stick figures. They passed me mashed potatoes before they even asked my last name. Noah slid the gravy closer like it was normal. Diane leaned in and quietly asked, "Are you safe?" That question, safe, hit harder than any insult my mother ever used. I nodded. She squeezed my hand once. And the younger son, Noah, caught my eye and whispered, "Brace yourself. Dad's about to tell a terrible joke. I laughed, a real laugh. When Frank raised his glass and said, "To unexpected guests who make the table complete," my chest hurt in a brand new way. Not from rejection, from relief, from being seen. And I realized something terrifying and freeing. My family had been optional all along. I just didn't know I was allowed to choose differently. For weeks after that Thanksgiving, I kept Diane Carter's business card in my wallet like it was a life raft. "Call if you need anything," she'd said. And the weird part was, I believed her. I wasn't used to people meaning it. In my world, love was conditional, something you earned by shrinking and staying quiet. The Carters invited me to Sunday dinner in Brookline. Frank called it an open door policy. Like family was a place you could walk into instead of a club you had to audition for. I said maybe a dozen times and meant no. Not because I didn't want it, but because I was terrified. If I showed up and they decided I was too much, if they pushed me away too, then my mom would be right. I would be the problem. Diane didn't let me vanish. She called in early December, casual as weather. "We're making pot roast Sunday. You like pot roast?" I laughed, nervous. I I guess. "Perfect," she said. "Come find out." So I went. Diane opened the door and pulled me into a hug like it was the most natural thing in the world. "There you are. We saved you a seat." Inside it was warm and loud, and Noah was in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, looking like he belonged in my life in a way that scared me. I kept waiting for the catch. For the criticism, for, "Don't you think you're being dramatic?" It didn't come. They asked about my work. They listened to the answer. Diane laughed at my jokes. Frank insisted I take leftovers because nobody leaves hungry. Sunday became a rhythm, then a home. Meanwhile, my biological family vanished like I died. No Christmas text, no birthday call, nothing. And after a few months, I stopped checking. Not because it didn't hurt, but because the Carters filled the space where the hurt used to echo. Diane taught me her secret pie crust, then wrote it down anyway. Frank taught me chess and laughed every time I lost. Lily started calling me Aunt Hannah without anyone telling her to. The first time she said it, my throat tightened so fast I couldn't speak. Noah noticed and slid me a napkin without making it a thing. Noah and I became friends first. Real friends. We texted dumb memes at midnight. We argued about movies. We took long walks after dinner, the kind where you talk about nothing and everything until you're outside my building and neither of you wants to say goodnight. I told him things I'd never said out loud. How my mom made me feel like an inconvenience. How my dad's silence felt like betrayal. How I kept waiting for the moment people got tired of me. One night, Noah stopped walking and faced me under a streetlight. "Hannah," he said, "you don't have to earn your spot with us. You already have it." My chest hurt in that good way, like a muscle you didn't know existed finally relaxing. 2 years passed like that, slow, healing, steady, until friendship tipped into something more. The night he proposed, he brought me back to Seaport Tavern. "Full circle," he said, voice shaking. He took my hand and looked at me like I was the answer. "I want to spend my life choosing you," he said, "every day, on purpose." Then he opened a little velvet box. I whispered, "Yes," like it was the first word I'd ever said that was entirely mine. Wedding planning should have been pure joy, but one detail haunted me: the invitation line. Parents of the bride. I couldn't put Karen and Tom Blake on paper like they'd supported me. Diane sat beside me while I spiraled and said gently, "There's a legal way to make chosen family official, if you ever want that. Adult adoption, a real thing. New birth certificate, new next of kin." When I finally asked Diane and Frank if they'd consider it, Diane hugged me and whispered, "We've already been your parents in our hearts. We were just waiting for you to be ready." And that's the part that still wrecks me. My blood family made love a test. The Carters made it a place to rest. By June, I wasn't Hannah Blake on paper anymore. I was Hannah Carter. Diane and Frank had legally adopted me. New birth certificate, new next of kin, an official "you belong." Noah and I got married at a Napa vineyard. Ceremony outside, reception in a stone barn, golden light everywhere. In the bridal suite, Diane adjusted my veil and whispered, "Whatever happens, we choose you." Frank walked me down the aisle with the calm pride I used to beg for. When Noah took my hands, I felt something old unclench. I also hired security, not for drama, for insurance. Because my mother, Karen Blake, had already shown up at my apartment months earlier, uninvited, demanding an invitation like she hadn't disappeared for 3 years. She'd stared at my photos with the Carters and said, "Who are these people?" Like love was trespassing. At the reception, a guard leaned in. "Mrs. Carter, there are two people at the entrance claiming to be your parents." Noah started forward. "I'll handle it." "No," I said. "I will." I could have had them turned away, but part of me needed them to see it. My life, my joy, the family they left me to build. So I told security, "Let them in, seat them in the back." Karen and my dad, Tom, stood near the doorway like confused tourists. Karen scanned the room like she expected someone to sprint over and fix her feelings. Tom hovered behind her, eyes down, hands in pockets, still practicing disappearance. Then the MC tapped the mic. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the parents of the bride." Karen straightened, chin up, ready to accept credit she didn't earn. "Frank and Diane Carter." The barn erupted in applause. Frank and Diane stood, smiling, waving, soaking in the love they'd actually poured into me. Across the room, my mother's face drained white. "What did he just say?" she hissed at Tom. Karen pushed through the crowd and stopped in front of me. "Who are those people?" she snapped. "My parents," I said, calm, "legally." Her mouth opened and closed. "You can't replace us." "I didn't replace you," I said. "You left." People around us fell silent. Karen's eyes flashed. "I'm still your mother." "Not legally," Nashit, I said, "and not emotionally." That's when my dad finally spoke. "Hannah." His voice sounded broken. His eyes were wet. I had never seen him cry. "I'm sorry," he said. "I watched you get pushed out again and again, and I did nothing because it was easier." The words I'd begged for as a kid arrived as an adult, too late to patch anything. "I believe you," I said, "but sorry doesn't give me back my childhood." Diane stepped beside me, hand on my arm. Frank stepped forward, voice firm. "That's enough. It's time for you to leave." Karen snapped toward Diane. "You stole my daughter." Diane didn't blink. "No, Mrs. Blake. You discarded her. We loved her." Security moved in. Karen tried to flip into victim mode, humiliation, loyalty, after everything we did. Before they were escorted out, I stepped closer and said softly, "I don't hate you. I made peace with who you are. But you don't get a seat at my table anymore. That's not revenge, that's consequences." They left. The room exhaled. Then people clapped, not for drama, but for boundaries. Noah pulled me into his arms, and the music came back like a heartbeat. For a second, I just stood there shaking, not from fear, but from the shock of my own steadiness. Little kid me would have apologized, would have begged. Adult me simply breathed. It felt like grief and freedom holding hands in my chest, and finally, I chose me today. The next morning, my phone lit up with relatives who hadn't checked on me in years. "How could you embarrass your mother?" Family is family. I deleted them. Then one message hit different. My Aunt Rachel. "I'm proud of you. You deserved better." So tell me, would you have let them in? Or would you have had security turn them away? Drop "let them in" or "kick them out" in the comments. And if this made you furious on my behalf, hit like, share, and subscribe for more real stories about boundaries and healing. I used to think boundaries were cruel. My mom trained me to believe that if I said no, I was selfish, dramatic, ungrateful. But standing on that dance floor with Noah's hand in mine and Diane and Frank laughing at our head table, I finally understood. Boundaries aren't punishment, they're protection. Do I wish my parents had chosen me earlier? Of course. Do I still get a wave of sadness sometimes? Yeah, but sadness isn't a contract. It doesn't mean I have to reopen a door that kept slamming on my face. So here's the question I'm still sitting with. Am I in the wrong for letting them see the life they forfeited and then sending them away? Because part of me knows I didn't do it to hurt them. I did it to stop hurting myself. If you've ever been the easy sacrifice in your family, hear this. You're allowed to build a new table. You're allowed to choose people who choose you back. Tell me what you would have done in my place. And if this story hit you, like subscribe and share it. Someone out there needs the reminder that choosing yourself isn't drama, it's healing, and keep going.